Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I just finished recording this video one time and then turns out my audio was broken. Something was wrong with the microphone. So here I am again, a second take, inshallah. I'm hoping this will work and I ask you for your patience until I figure out the sound issues, inshallah. So today's topics is Ramadan and how can we prepare for Ramadan in terms of the Quran recitations for our children. How can we teach them? How can we make a schedule for them? What kind of plan can we make, inshallah? Because this is the focus of this channel, how to teach children. And, I want to show you how we go about it, inshallah. In the next few videos, my children will also participate so you can actually see how it works out in real life. So I want to mention a couple of points here. I think when people think of Ramadan and children and Quran memorization, they maybe visualize, this serene environment where everybody is just cooperating and children are sitting still and sitting in a circle, reciting with smiles on their faces. And then when they look at their own reality, they see like, oh my God, this is not how my household looks like. So maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe, why should we even bother? Or we feel bad because we think that's how it's going on in everybody's household. We have been on this journey of Quran memorization over the last 15 years. And let me tell you, stuff gets crazy in the house. Children still fight. There's still sibling rivalry. They're still refusing to do chores. There is still the daily life that goes on, even though it's Ramadan. Ramadan is a special month, but your children are still children, even in Ramadan. So I want to kind of get away from this idea of perfection, that, in order for Quran memorization or for our children to be able to recite the Quran and, do this hifdh, inshallah, that it has to be perfect. So we're waiting for the perfect moment and it's never coming, so we just kind of give up. So let's keep it real. Every household has its challenges, and so we're just going to talk about here how can we make it happen and what is realistic, inshallah. The goal of this channel is not to talk about the spiritual side of it. I'm sure there's other lectures and more qualified people to talk about it. I want to give you practical tips from a perspective of a mother of a large household, how Quran recitation is done in our household during the month of Ramadan, inshallah, and how you can make it happen for your family as well. So I want to mention a couple of points, inshallah, and I'm hoping you will get some benefit from it for your family, inshallah, as well. And let me know in the comments if, this resonated with you and if you have any other questions, inshallah, that we can address in further videos, inshallah. So number one, I want you to consider where you're at, to take an assessment of your current family's needs and ages and, level of Quran recitation for this particular Ramadan. Especially in a growing family, the needs change. Not every Ramadan is the same. One Ramadan you might have a baby, one Ramadan you might have a toddler, some other Ramadan you might have a teenager. So every Ramadan is going to look different, and every Ramadan your energy is going to be different as a mother. So consider your circumstances. What is this particular Ramadan looking like for you? And this is where we don't want to compare ourselves. My Ramadan, for example, this year is, the reality is that my youngest is 5 years old. I don't have anybody who needs to be potty trained. I don't have anybody that I'm breastfeeding. I'm not awake at night. So of course, our Ramadan schedule is going to look different to somebody who might have a baby and a toddler and a 5-year-old, okay? Many Ramadans back, I used to be in that position, of having lots of young children under the age of 10. So my expectations for Ramadan were quite different than they are now. So before you make any plan, I want you to consider, where are you at right now? What are the ages of your children? What are their needs? How can we make a realistic plan for this Ramadan, inshallah, given your unique circumstances? So when we follow other people's schedules, when we follow other people's routines, often we feel like this is not working for us, and we end up blaming ourselves. Well, there must be something wrong with me. How come all these other people, they're getting success with such and such method? But we fail to consider our unique circumstances at that particular time. So consider where you're at before you make a plan. Okay, that's point number one. Point number two that I want you to consider is the idea that you as a mother lead, okay, or you as a father, if you happen to be one of those watching the channel. But you as a mother, you lead the way. You are the role model in the family. So I want you to prioritize your own worship. And I know this seems counter-effective. We're here talking about children's Quran recitation and how can we make a plan for them. But this is the best way that the children will see that their own mother and father are reciting, that their own mother and father are setting an example. Because often we're trying to make our religion, sometimes our kids sometimes more religious than we are ourselves, or we try to expect from them, certain practices that we're not fulfilling ourselves. So you as a parent, you need to be leading the way. So consider, given your unique circumstances, how are you going to prioritize your worship this month? What is your Quran recitation schedule going to look like? Or are you going to be able to make time for yourself to read? What is your plan? And prioritize that, inshallah. And if your kids keep asking you, okay, but what's going on? Then you will tell them, Mama needs some time off. Now she's going to focus reading. I need to finish my portion for today. This is what I'm doing. And you making that boundary, you setting that time for yourself, that's going to be the best example, inshallah, for them, that they realize this is something important. Our parents are making time for this. So consider that you're leading the way in your own worship, inshallah. Now, there's often advice out there that, just kind of you should read as you go, take little bits and pieces of time, read after each. I found that as a mother, that didn't really work for me. There were constant interruptions. I would be reading one page and there would be 5 times interruptions. Kids want this, kids want that. They want to ask me a question. And I found my focus wasn't there. I was in the midst of the chaos. So it just didn't work for me. So what I found better was to take a chunk of time and just read quietly on my own. So in terms of prioritizing your own worship, your kids might be young, so you might not be able to do that, but you can reserve that for the nap time. You can do it after they go to sleep. You can figure out a schedule with your spouse where each of you gets a little bit of alone time, to finish that quiet reading. But I found that I needed to focus myself, so I needed a bit of quiet and time away from the kids. Now I'm mentioning this because often it just it's assumed, well, the mother will be a role model by reading in front of the kids. Yes, sure, she will, but also she will be a role model by taking time and making sure that the kids see that she's taking time for something important and setting that boundary, inshallah. So prioritize your own worship, and you know yourself best. So if you're able to read on the go, sure, go ahead. But there's also nothing wrong with taking time to focus on your recitation, inshallah. Okay, that was point number 2. Point number 3, very important for mothers, is to consider rest and routines in your household during the month of Ramadan. Often when we're fasting and we want to pray at night and sleep and regarding iftars and suhoors and things like that, we don't get enough rest, especially as mothers who are running the households, or maybe waking up at night due to needy children and things like that, or if the kids are not getting enough sleep, there is this sort of crankiness that goes and affects the whole household. And I've had Ramadans like that, where I felt like, absolutely cranky and tired and always low energy. And so I've learned to prioritize rest. So no matter what kind of sleep schedule you follow in Ramadan, some people prefer to stay up till Fajr, some people still wake up early, and depending on your life circumstances, no matter what your sleep schedule is, make sure you get enough sleep, and make sure your children get enough sleep, because for them to be able to recite and follow your instructions and follow the program that you want to set for them, they need to be rested. And so fasting for children and youth, and for us as adults as well, is not always easy. So, it results in this sort of, sometimes low-key crankiness. And so if we're tired and hungry at the same time, it's going to be very difficult to be patient with our children and to help them achieve their goals. So prioritize your rest. Think of a time when the children can nap. When are you going to take a nap? Where is that going? Where's your energy going to come from, inshallah? So you're able to show up in Ramadan as a mother who is a role model, inshallah. So consider rest, okay, as a very important ingredient in how to make your Ramadan successful, inshallah. Number 4, I want you to consider the idea of family worship. And what do I mean by this? I mean, when is the family going to be worshiping together? Are the prayers going to be done together? Can the children participate in all that? What is the schedule going to be like? Are you going to be entertaining? Are you going to be calling people over for iftar? Are you going to be visiting maybe your in-laws or extended family? So consider what the family schedule is going to be like. We can expect our children to perform and achieve results during the month of Ramadan if we set an unrealistic schedule or if we don't include them. So make sure to give some thought. Are we going to be praying in Jama'ah together at home? Are we going to be leading Taraweeh? Maybe one of the children has, memorized enough Quran, mashallah, that they can lead Salah. So how can you make the family worship together? Are you going to be making time to have that everybody makes wudu and prays together. Now, I know this is easier said than done. In a household full of children, just making sure that everybody makes wudu and is ready for prayer, that takes half an hour. That's why I'm kind of putting all these points ahead of time, because often when we fail, or when we think we're failing at Quran recitation and memorization, and especially in regards to our children, we think something is wrong with us, something is wrong, what is wrong with our children, why are they not doing it? But it's a mixture, a lot of ingredients, it's a mixture, of all the conditions around us that have to be right. So consider the family dynamic, consider how is the family worshipping during this month, how is their ibadah, how can the children be included, and at one point do the children need to be excluded? So for example, do they need to sleep? Are they young and they're just disruptive during salah? Do they need to have a nap? Or how is this going to work in the larger family dynamic, inshallah? All right, consider that point. Number 5, I think I've kept a point count at this point, is to pick a theme. So sometimes that can be easier to pick a theme. So if you're having a hard time figuring out, how to get your children on board, maybe you can focus on smaller chunks. So you can pick a surah that you're going to be focusing on this month, a Surah Mulk, for example, or Surah Sajda, the ones that are, 30 ayat maybe, and then you can memorize an ayah a day, or you can read an ayah a day. Consider focusing on the theme maybe of learning how to read Arabic. So just alif ba ta, if your children are not quite there yet. Consider maybe picking salah as a topic, and working on strengthening your salah, and then, what's going to be read in the salah on that Quran memorization part. Are your children able to lead salah? We had Ramadans, for example, where my boys were old enough to lead prayer. So we focused on, teaching them how to lead prayer, how to be the imam, and things like that. So pick a theme. So sometimes when you have a bad day, and you will have bad days, Ramadan won't be perfection. You can just kind of look back and see, okay, does this fit into my theme? Can I do something today that's going to fit into the larger theme of what I'm trying to do this month, inshallah? So pick a theme and inform your children, okay, this is going to be our focus in, this Ramadan in regards to Quran recitation and memorization. So maybe you want to revisit some tajweed rules. So pick that as a topic, or basically don't try to do everything at the same time. There is tons that we want to do. Sometimes we want to overwhelm our children. We want to teach them everything at once. So make sure you just pick one theme that's going to be your guiding thread throughout this month, inshallah, and that's going to give kids an idea and, make it more predictable for them in terms of what to expect this month, inshallah. All right, and so in terms of picking a theme, another point I want to mention is that it would be helpful if you kept some sort of, journal, or if you kept track on your phone, kept progress, of what you're doing this month. And I found that to be a really good incentive for the children, so they could look back, for example, how much they've improved at the beginning of Ramadan. Maybe you could record a recitation at the beginning of the month, and then, later on how it went. Maybe if they're practicing their Arabic, how much progress they made. You could take a before and after picture. If you keep a journal, it's really helpful to sort of see that it's moving, that something is happening. Because sometimes when you're in the midst of parenting, when you're in the midst of the chaos, it seems like nothing is happening. It seems like nobody's making any progress, and that can be daunting, and we kind of feel like giving up. So if you find some sort of way to keep track of what you're doing each and every day, it's really lovely to look back. Some Ramadans I felt like, okay, it was just fog, like it was just little kids, and are we making any progress? But now when I look back, it's like, oh wow, yeah, we did accomplish such and such. So as you're picking a theme, find also a way to keep track of what you're doing as a way of measuring your progress, inshallah. Another point I want to mention next is to decide if you want to focus on Quran memorization versus Quran recitation during this month. I have found that maybe only one of the Ramadans, one of my sons managed to memorize a large portion. The rest of the time, kids couldn't really focus on the memorization during this month because there were so many other moving parts. So we have decided as a family to focus on Quran recitation during the month of Ramadan. To be honest, I also felt like the kids maybe were a bit foggy in terms of memorization because they were hungry if they were fasting, and then, eating and Taraweeh, and there was, many moving parts. So we just decided as a family to focus on Quran recitation. Now, your experience might vary. You might want to just, push really hard with memorization to finish a larger chunk or to finish a specific surah. So decide ahead of time, what is your focus going to be? Is it going to be Quran recitation or Quran memorization? Or do you want to do both? And how are you going to schedule that in, inshallah? All right? The next point is to focus on the children in terms of their ages and how much attention they need. So in our household, we have a bit of a rule that we go youngest to oldest in terms of, how much I can be present with the kids. And usually the younger ones are more impatient. So they're waiting for me. Mama, can you do this for me? Can you help me with this? So generally my attention goes youngest to oldest. The older one can be quite independent. I can just tell them, hey, where are you at with your reading today? What juz are you going to read? What are you planning to do? But I focus with my attention on the younger ones first. So I will sit with the 5-year-old and do her portion with her. Then I move in with ages as we go and sit with the children in that order, because that gives us some structure. And then again, the younger children, then they have completed their part, and they usually will need parental supervision or parental help. So this way we know that the younger ones get their turn first, and then the older ones can check in with me and say, okay, I need help with this. Can we read together? Can you show me this? Can I read to you? That kind of thing. So consider making arrangements in such a way that youngest to oldest, consider their ages and their needs. So how much attention you yourself as a mother need to give to them. The last point, and that's the concluding point, inshallah, for today, is to just remind you to be gentle towards yourself and your children during this month. And I know it seems like a no-brainer, but it's something that really needs to be repeated, because many mothers stress themselves out. They have so many moving parts in their lives. They have the household to run. They have maybe guests. They have maybe family. They want to do so much in this month. And sometimes we're very harsh and critical towards ourselves. And so we feel like we're failing. We feel like nothing is working. So I just want to remind you that you're doing a great job, and to purify your intention and to be gentle towards yourself, and particularly gentle towards your children. Don't freak out on them. Don't be harsh. Don't be negative. Don't be mean. They're doing their best, and you will achieve far more with love and gentleness rather than with criticism. If we make children feel bad, that's not helping them learn, and that's not helping them excel. So positive reinforcement works much better than negative reinforcements with most children. So cultivate that connection, be gentle towards your children, and inshallah you will see success on this month, inshallah. We will be posting in Ramadan, inshallah. We will continue to post with my children, and so we will show you some of the practical routines as we do them, and hopefully this will give you some motivation and inspiration, inshallah. Jazakallahu khairan for listening, and thank you so much for your support. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.